this week. That's fun.
They haven't played each other at all.
No, that's why the unbalanced schedule, too many teams, all that fun stuff, you know? All right. I'm going to wait till 3, 2, 1. MLS Aces Podcast. This is your host, Tom Sweezy. Once again, joined with Jason Vevang. I'm a little slow. I'm catching myself a little stagnant this week. Jason, you're looking good in full HD once again. It's MLS Cup week, Jason. We excited?
I am. I mean, this is what we do it for, right? This is one more game left for us to talk about. I mean, I know we have some news and notes, and I'm just less excited for that because my mind is focused. My mind is on spending the last, 70 hours trying to switch off every minute between each team, figuring out who I actually think is going to win, which is I don't know. I think the more I thought about it, the harder it's gotten for me.
I mean, it got a lot harder after some news came Sunday as well. And we will dive all into the Ricky Poosh news as well. But we do have some quick stuff to chat about. And this is just a little insight into what it goes into hosting, running, being a part of an MLS podcast, that there really is no downtime. Like
can't these teams wait till after MLS Cup to make all of their offseason moves and announce?
No, because they have to prep for CONCACAF Champions Cup in
man.
2 months. You know, like it's absolutely insane. So
the day after MLS Cup, we get a crap load of news, and
the day after MLS Cup, we have to get the Galaxy and Red Bull roster decisions too, which is wild. That
shocking. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a parade on Tuesday, but you're not gonna be there.
The front office, they know pretty much going into this game, who their contracts options they're not gonna pick up, loans they're not gonna, all that. It's wild. But that's Major League Soccer right now.
That's the business.
We are going to quickly run through as much of this news as we can. Not as in depth as possible because of MLS Cup, because it's the game, because we spent how many fucking episodes this 2024 calendar year prepping for this moment, talking about it, everything like that. But Jason, you stumbled a little bit.
Not a lot of green on my semifinal pick.
No. 10-4. 10-4 is still a good record, and you can finish 11-4 or even 10-5, and that's still killing it. I'm 6-8 right now. A 7-8 record would make me feel much better about myself after the start that I had to my playoff picks.
Yeah, I mean the picks were hard. I think going into this one, I don't know. I felt pretty confident, but we had 2 1-0 wins, so the margins for error were really small in these games.
We're slim.
That's kind of what it came down to. At this point, you're picking it, and it's damn close between the teams.
Exactly. So I mean, this should realistically be the best. Last round should have been the best 4 teams in Major League Soccer. Now, there's a whole argument there that we're not going to get into, but
it's not. Hey, you know what? Respect to Orlando, Seattle, the Galaxy, and who's the other team?
Red Bulls.
I'm kidding.
Got you. I was about to say, bro.
And the Red Bulls.
We're about to talk about the Red Bulls for 40 minutes. But let's run through some of the other news and notes around MLS and U.S. Soccer before we dive into our full MLS Cup preview coverage, all of that. First and foremost, John Herdman stepping down as manager of Toronto FC. The 49-year-old departs Toronto with more and more information coming out about the Canadian drone scandal. And, I mean, it almost just feels like every single day you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop in terms of, whose involvement in what in this potential drone scandal. I'm not throwing any names or anything under the bus, but in terms of Herdman at Toronto, he had 47 games as manager of the club with a record of 17 wins, 4 draws, 26 losses in his only full season this year. He had Toronto finishing in 11th place in the Eastern Conference on 37 points. I'm okay with it. I don't know about you. I'm okay with this.
I mean, I would be kind of disappointed as a Toronto fan. I feel like going into the season, there was really not a lot of hope. And coming out of it, it was that this was not a bad season for them. If that now, I mean, you could say, but we predicted this team to finish last, I'm pretty sure. So
sure,
they were fighting for a playoff spot towards the end of the season. I think they were going in the right direction. Maybe it was going to take a year or 2, but I think this sets them back. And whether or not, this drone scandal reveals a lot of shady stuff, which it might. And he might be tied to many of it, which I think we already know he's tied to some of it. It's not great. It's not a good look, and it makes sense why he's gone. But at the same time, for Toronto as a club, is like that's a step backwards.
You know, to me, it's like, sure, was Herdman doing? I think Herdman was doing better than what we've seen in 2023 for Toronto on the field. He got Bernadeschi playing great soccer. He got, I think, more out of Insigne than we've seen so far.
I mean, those two sentences in itself, that, you know what? Good job, man. No one else could do it.
I just don't know. Like, to me, I still hold the bar of, if you don't make even the play-in game in Major League Soccer, I don't know if you had a good season. And I'm not going into that argument because that's a whole other argument we could probably say for the offseason, but that's just my viewpoint of it. I personally think we've seen Toronto FC sporting director get let go. Now we've seen Herdman let go, and I think it's not, that probably wasn't about on the field. That's definitely more about off the field and probably what's going to come now in the news cycle. But Toronto needs to figure things out from the top down because they are a big market. They can clearly attract big players. They've been a successful organization in the past and in the not so recent past. I think they need to figure out from the top down who the decision makers are, who's going to be leading this. Is it Jason Hernandez as the sporting director? Is he going to have the say in the manager? Is someone else in the organization going to have a say? Because the more and more you dive into the ethos of what the Toronto FC's front office is, it's messy, and that needs to get figured out if you're ever going to have that trickle down to on-field success, like consistent on-field success.
This kind of ties into the current MLS Cup, but I was reading some just interesting stats going into the MLS Cup, and the Galaxy are actually one goal away from tying the most goals in a single playoffs. That team was the Toronto team in 2016. So I mean, we're not that far away from this team being the dominant force that it was. I think, obviously, things fell apart, but
I mean, look, you look at the guys in that front office, though. It was Tim Bezbachenko, it was Issa Fall, right? It's guys that went on and got larger roles in other MLS organizations and have been successful. So they need to. I don't know. They need to just find some stability, understand and build out a proper, I think, soccer front office structure. And I think from there, things will get better. But we'll see. We'll see when and if that happens in any time soon. Like I said, we're going to kind of move quickly through this as this is an MLS Cup preview episode. So next, St. Louis City, they started off their offseason. Obviously, last week we talked about the hiring of Olaf Mellberg as their next manager, but now they've gone off and made the first signing under Mellberg, which I don't think he probably had any ties to this because it got announced like 2 days later. But St. Louis City signed 28-year-old German center back Timo Baumgartel. He's a former 2 Bundesliga champion with his time at Stuttgart, and he has about 213 pro games under his belt between Stuttgart, PSV, Union Berlin, and most recently in the 2 Bundesliga with Schalke. I mean, it's the profile of St. Louis. I don't know if there's any much more to say other than this is the St. Louis 2 Bundesliga Scandinavian profile.
They know what they want, and they go out and get it.
Exactly. Like, this is what the front office, this is what Lutz Van and Steele in the front office does. Mellberg, fit that profile in his hiring, and this is how they build, and it's been somewhat successful in recent history. So I don't think we need to dive too much into that, but just want to announce it for everyone listening or watching. Next, Bruce Arena and the San Jose Earthquakes, they've acquired Mark Anthony Kaye, Ian Harkes, and Dave Romney from the New England Revolution for roughly $500,000 in general allocation money and an international roster spot. Obviously, if you've been watching, paying attention to Major League Soccer in the last 5, 6, 7 decade, you know who Mark Anthony Kaye, Ian Harkes, and Dave Romney are. Obviously, Bruce Arena knows who they are as well, bringing them into the fold at the New England Revolution. Arena also knowing Romney from his time at the LA Galaxy as well. You and I disagreed a little bit in text message about this move, Jason. Give me your perspective of the move, of the transfer, and everything for whichever side you're thinking of.
I think it's not like a major disagreement. I just I should have gone in and tried to find some comparable players and how much they went for, but I didn't because I have other things to do,
Yes.
unfortunately.
We have
But
9 5s.
my only thing was like 500K and an international roster spot is a lot. Like that's a lot to give up for any team. And I mean, when you look at it in the sense of just what was paid and what was given for these three players, I personally think it was a little bit of an overpay. But then if you take like a little bit of a step back and you start thinking, okay, these are all what 29 to 30 and 31-year-old players, very experienced, have 100+ games of MLS under their belt experience, which is super necessary and one of the biggest things that probably a team like San Jose can use. Then you look out even further and it's like, okay, these are Bruce Arena's guys. It kind of makes sense to, even if it is an overpay, I don't necessarily think they were wrong to do it. I just personally think they might have been able to do it for less. I don't know. I think that's where our disagreement was. Like when I read 500K and an international roster spot, like my eyes were like, oh, wow. Like that's a lot.
I think about it like this, like Paul Arriola, when he went from DC to Dallas, was it like Dallas paid like $1 million in general allocation money for him, right? Like that was like the most we've ever seen or whatever it was, or it might've been LA to DC, whatever it was. Paul Arriola went for a lot of general allocation money at some point.
Up his transfer.
And when I look at it as three players going for roughly 500K, okay, it's about 200,000, a little less for per player for this transfer, right? And I think the thing that MLS fans and soccer fans need to understand is just because you maybe don't rate guys like Kay, Harks, Romney, doesn't mean it's not worth it in the trade. Bruce Arena is the most successful coach of all time in Major League Soccer. He knows how to build his rosters because he built his rosters with his guys. Again, he knows Romney from two different organizations. He knows Harks and Kay from his time at the Revolution, in which they won a 2021 Supporter Shield record-breaking season, everything like that. This is what Bruce Arena does, and he trusts his guys, and he will pay the necessary money to go get his guys. That is the only reason, and my only argument for this is a good move, because now you instantly upgrade the midfield of San Jose that was rolling with Alfredo Morales and Michael Baldissimo and Jack Skahan. You upgrade that with Mark Anthony Kay and Ian Harks, Jason, like you said, two guys in their prime who've been around MLS. You upgrade a back line that had Daniel Mooney and Bruno Wilson and Rodriguez with Dave Romney, who I think instantly steps in as the best center back on this roster. I think the floor of the San Jose Earthquakes has just elevated, I'm going to say, out of the basement of the Western Conference. I'm not saying too much further, but I think even with an initial move, first move of the offseason, not even, I guess, in the offseason technically, right? Like, I think this elevates the roster just to a baseline level where now, okay, you make some more moves, you're competing for a play-in spot now. You're not just, doing what the Earthquakes have done their last few seasons.
Yeah, and I think for a team like the Earthquakes, too, I mean, just getting Bruce Arena probably elevates them a little bit out of that.
Yes.
But I do think context-wise, this happening to the Earthquakes is probably more beneficial than this happening to some of the other already decent teams in the league.
For sure.
Like them being a team that I think was the worst in the league. By far the worst in the league on points. Worst defense, one of the worst attacks. Like just across the board, they were not good. This is definitely going to help them. I don't know. This is also 2 years off of him coaching these guys, right? Or a year and a half, if you want to get down to it. People age a little bit, and I'm not saying they're not going to be good players or they're not going to be able to help this team. Again, like a team that is this bad, anything's probably going to help them. But it's just, I don't know. The price tag is a little high.
That, Jason, we're allowed to disagree. That's totally fine. And I'm not saying I disagree that it's high. I'm just saying I disagree. I think you have to trust Bruce Arena's process for what he's done or what he's used
That
to.
is fair. This guy is one of the more successful MLS coaches of all time.
That's my only argument to that. But the New England Revolution obviously made this move, and it's been pointed out a ton that this was a salary dump, right? Kay, Harks, and Romney all were on pretty high salaries, and clearly 2024 was not a successful season for the New England Revolution. Caleb Porter continuing to, I think, develop and build out his roster with his guys rather than Bruce Arena's guys, who obviously Bruce had a big impact on a lot of the players on the roster. In doing that, dumping these three players, Caleb Porter has gone out and he has made a center back signing in Mamadou Fofana from Ligue 2 side Amiens SC. The 26-year-old is a full Mali international center back. He has 42 caps for Mali with 1 goal. He has 238 pro games under his belt with a goal and 2 assists. He's played for the likes of Amiens, FC Metz, Alanyaspor, and Bandırmaspor. I don't know. Between the Turkish top 2 divisions and the French top 2 divisions, he is an experienced player, full on, again, international for his country. And we've seen a lot of players who come from like that borderline League 1, League 2 in France move to MLS and have it be super successful. You could look at Steven Moreira, Rudy Camacho. You can look at Dylan Chambost. You can look at a lot of different guys who have made this move. I mean, it seems like a good profile. I don't know much about him, but I like it for what Caleb Porter's trying to do.
I mean, I think Caleb Porter kind of inherited a team in a little bit of turmoil there.
A little bit.
I thought they would still be decent. They were not. So he's got to put it, much like Bruce is doing in San Jose, he's got to go put his stamp on his roster and build out and kind of change whatever happened with the culture there. So.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to keep the news moving. Free agent striker coming off of an MLS roster, Samuel Adinarin. He is off to Austrian Bundesliga club LASK. I don't think it's LASK. I think it's LASK. So I just want to try my best there with that one. He was just a top free agent, potential MLS experience striker, gone to Europe, and good luck to him. The other big move that I want to talk about quickly is FC Cincinnati. They exercised their purchase option for attacker, wingback, winger, whatever you want to consider him this past season. Luca Orejano, the 24-year-old Argentine, played 40 games with Cincinnati this past season while on loan from Vasco da Gama with 17 goal contributions in total, was named an MLS All-Star, and did score the MLS goal of the season. This is a $3 million reported deal from Tom Bogert. Jason, I don't know if you disagree with me on this, but this is an
no. This is something we agree on. This team is good. I think I don't want to keep repeating myself, so I'm not even going to bring up Lucho Acosta. I'm just waiting for that news to drop because that's what I'm really interested in. But this is a huge step in the right direction, as they've been doing. I think every time news breaks about this team, feels like they're taking the right steps here. So.
No, fair enough. And we are going to wrap up the news with more roster decisions. Jason, is there a roster news drop that we haven't talked about in the last week that is interesting to you enough?
I mean, I think what's interesting to me is someone who's a fan of a club with consistently disappointing results, to say the least. I look at some of the players that get, kind of like out of contract at the end of the season, and I'm like, could probably use him, like there's like the whole list, just name them all. And I think it puts into perspective like the talent level in MLS. And then at the same time, with how many teams make playoffs, it's really concerning if you're consistently bad. And that's what I take away from these roster decisions at the end of the season. It concerns me because there's so many good names that good teams get value out of, right?
Yeah.
There's Kai Kamara was on the Fire, and he then was on a great LAFC team. And I mean, I could name all of them really, but there's good players who kind of drift around the league a little bit that the great teams use to their best ability.
Yeah.
And then they kind of go elsewhere and are either good again or still good or used poorly. And I think there are some clubs in the league who are not good at turning some of these names into consistent performers where other teams are. And maybe it's the difference between what Columbus is going to ask I don't know, Will Trapp to do would be different than what the Fire would. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of nuance to it, but it is interesting to me when I look at the names and I'm just like, oh man, Edward Atuesta, like this guy's a killer. He was.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's obviously shocking names, and we're not going to go through players and whatnot. I just think if you're a San Diego team coming into year one of existence, if you're Chicago Fire, who have a new era under Greg Berhalter, hopefully, who has strong ties to many players throughout U.S. soccer. Same thing I would say with Bruce Arena in San Diego, and you can make arguments for B.J. Callahan in Nashville and a few other guys, right, and a few other spots and everything like that. But you have guys like Abobasi, Ewell, Aaron Long, these guys who have been around U.S. soccer and at the USMNT level, maybe not getting caps, but staying connected with coaches and the federation. Interesting landing spots is all I will say, and I think that's just what makes the MLS.
Well, yeah, and I think
MLS
looking at a lot of these names, it'll be more fun to talk about, some of them later on when this is where he is at now, and how can he be impactful rather than what's going to happen.
Exactly. And that's why we will get to it, obviously, over the course of the offseason when all these guys find their new homes. The last piece of news I just want to quickly mention, the MLS Board of Governors have approved the contract extension for MLS Commissioner Don Garber through the end of the 2027 MLS season. That is a full season after the World Cup here in the United States. Obviously, Don Garber gets his haters, he gets his lovers, and everything in between, right? Ultimately, I don't think MLS is where it is without Don Garber's leadership, and he has a lot of work to continuously do because I think that's just the job of a commissioner of any sports league. But he's done a good job overall from the beginning of Major League Soccer's time, and we will get another three full seasons of Don Garber. So that is that.
Just to say, just real quick, I do feel like having that consistent presence through the World Cup is probably for the best, rather than some sort of turnover or confusion. I don't know. It feels like get through that. That's the big event.
I fully agree with you, and there's a chance that Don Garber hangs around post 2027 and they continue to extend his contract and everything like that. And we will see. And, his position matters within this league and within this region and then the global scale of soccer. So we'll see. I'm fine with Don Garber being around for another 3 seasons at least. All right, let's keep it moving, Jason. Let's talk Eastern Conference Final. It was the first game of the day on this past Saturday, where Orlando City hosted the New York Red Bulls, and you gave the hint away already, Jason. It came down to 2-1-0 finishes in these conference finals, and the Red Bulls snuck away with a 1-0 win on the road off of a beautiful John Tolkien set piece in swinger to Andres Reyes for the winner. We will save the Red Bull strategy talk for MLS Cup, obviously, but what did you make of the game as a whole? And if we want to dive a little bit more Orlando, I think that makes sense too.
Yeah, I mean, I think both, I don't know, I feel like both of these games were, every game we've seen in these playoffs has been relatively defensive minded, outside of, actually most of the Galaxy games. But I do think it's just interesting how impactful goalkeepers have been. And I think going to sort of a Red Bull spin on it, Coronel has been just incredible.
Yeah.
I think he's up to 19 saves or something in these playoffs. He's been consistently keeping them in these games. And that's not to say, the other players aren't living up to what, doing what they need to do. I think, sorry, I'm going into the Red Bull side of things.
No, that's totally fine. The only reason why I like starting with this point is because Coronel has been the MVP of this team 100%. So I agree with you.
Well, and I think it's the same can be said a little bit of Orlando and how Pedro Gaese was really good through these playoffs. I think goalkeeping has been pretty. I mean, even on the other side, Stefan Fry has been amazing. I think, we've seen a lot of that kind of carrying teams. Atlanta doesn't get by Miami without good goalkeeping. It's just time and time again, that's sort of what is popping out to me. And while the Galaxy, on the other hand, have this amazing attack that they've been able to break through some teams, they still needed defense. And I think I don't know. I don't have a huge amount to say. I think both of these games, I probably have more to say about the Galaxy game than Seattle than I did this game. I personally think Orlando lacked a little bit of urgency, in my opinion, and just like I think they are the better team. I don't know if they realized they were the better team because it didn't feel like they were playing like they could take a hold of the game like I think they should have. Yeah, go ahead.
The interesting thing that I always view about, and we said this a little bit last week, and we said it 2 weeks ago with the Charlotte game 3, right? Mm-hmm. Oscar Pareja, when he's in like an elimination game, does not coach, and the team around him does not play like it's an elimination game. We saw it with the Tigres on the road CONCACAF Champions Cup game a few years ago. We've seen it in these MLS Cup playoffs. We see it, I almost feel like, year after year where Orlando gets into a good spot in some type of competition, tournament, whatever, and it ultimately comes down to a very flat, unimpressive performance where the defense maybe shows up. It's one goal difference that sets the tone there. But I mean, Ramiro Enrique was moving around. He wasn't really finishing well. Facundo Torres was not finishing well. Martin Ojeda was almost invisible in this game. Luis Muriel was awful off the bench. Yes, they allowed 1 goal, and it was a really bad defensive set piece moment. And we've seen that, though, from Orlando, too. From the run of play, defensively, this team is great. Set piece-wise, no one marks a 6-foot-something Andres Reyes running into the box or running into the back post. I mean, it's just like this team just always falls flat, obviously outside of the U.S. Open Cup a few years ago. But this team just is like, you have so much hope, so much faith. The team's so good. The coaching, the talent, it's all there. And just it's always just flat on their face, I feel like. And I'm sure that's frustrating.
I think you kind of nailed it a little bit of what I feel when I'm watching because – and it's something we talk about with the great teams, right? Wilfred Nancy coach teams. I mean, Steve Cherundolo with LAFC. There's probably more. There is more. I know we talked about that. But like teams that are going to go into every game, with their plan, they're going to play their way. They're going to not shy away from it unless it's drastically going wrong, right? And I think some of those teams that go far, or some of these teams that go far in MLS Cup and just do well across the board all season are teams that are not, I don't want to say afraid of the moment, and I don't want to like pick on Pareja because I do think he's a good manager. I do think he's had a lot of success and he's deserved it. I just think what you're saying is right. Like in these games that are one and done, kind of like closeout games, and while they did win 2 of 3 of them because the team has talent, it's not how you would be hoping they're winning these, right? It's not how they're hoping we're seeing. We're not seeing them go into these games and playing like they would every week. It's a different, almost like a different mentality. And I don't know if you feel the same way. I just feel like we're looking at a team that it's just slightly different. And I get kind of disappointed by it because I think we know the potential. We know the talent on this team. And it just, for some reason in games that really matter, they've been coming up short. And I haven't been even with their wins, over Atlanta, over Charlotte in that closeout game, which actually ended in a draw, but they won on 2 days. I don't think either of those were that impressive.
This team, I don't think does not have a talent issue. Facundo Torres is a borderline Uruguay international. The Pedro Gallese, I think he's still his national team goalkeeper. Robin Janssen is one of the best center backs in the league. Cartagena and Cesar Araujo are a beautiful pairing of a lower midfield block in this league. Ramiro Enrique, I mean, the dude I think broke out a little bit this season under Pareja. This team to me almost has like a killer mindset deficit. Like they don't just go out and like Facundo stepping up and just being that dude.
Yeah. Like, I'm better. I'm going to score.
Exactly.
They don't do that.
Like oh, they're not giving it to me, but I'm just going to hit this shit anyway because I know I can put this away from 20 yards out. Even if it doesn't go in, you have to just have that mindset of like, I'm going to keep testing these guys. We're better. I know I'm better than whoever, and I'm going to keep, making sure that I'm making them work to win this game because I'm the better player, we're the better team, whatever it may be. I don't think this team has that, and that's what I think.
I personally think NYCFC put up a better fight against this team
than I agree.
Orlando did, and NYCFC had a worse result, right? And
exactly.
And I think that was purely because of incredible defending, which goes back to the fact that that's just been the staple of these playoffs, and amazing goalkeeping, and I guess some poor finishing, which that just goes with it. I mean, if you have to second guess every shot because Coronel is a brick wall back there, it does make it a little harder.
That is the only thing that I will say concerned me from the Red Bulls in this game because, I think the Nialis brothers at center back were great. I think Andres Reyes, yes, he got the goal, still a little shaky defensively. Some people arguing for a red card, whatever there. Daniel Edelman at his age is stepping up in central midfield. John Tolkien proving to be one of the best left backs and obviously now adjusting to a left wing back. Like this team is playing very well. The thing that concerns me, and I would don't want we can talk about it when it comes to MLS Cup, right?
Yeah.
Is the amount of shots that Coronel is facing. Yes, he's saving them, but what happens when he doesn't? What happens when
when he faces a team with incredible shooting form?
Exactly. A team that has three of the best 15 attackers in the league, right? Like what happens when that happens? And I guess we'll find out soon enough. But let's go to the Western Conference super quick, Jason. And again, a 1-0 win here as well. Galaxy over the Seattle Sounders. Dejan Joveljic scoring the game winner in the 86th minute in what was a very, very impressive defensive performance from both sides. From the Sounders, obviously, we've seen it all season long with that being one of the best defensive teams in the league. And from the LA Galaxy, who really have stepped up their defensive game in the best possible moment of the 2024 calendar year. The big storyline, I think, to talk about here, though, Jason, Ricky Puig, he hits the game-winning assist in the 86th minute to Joveljic, which was a beautiful assist off of a pretty poor giveaway.
20 minutes after his ACL was torn.
Yeah, right? Like, he played 30 minutes on a torn ACL, hits the game-winning assist, and, obviously the torn ACL is a big point of conversation here. So let's just dive into it. One, the amount of the guts, the balls on this kid to do what he did in the Western Conference Final to make sure that his team won to get a chance to go to MLS Cup. I mean, kudos. That's a leader. That's a star. That's everything you want to see in a player on any team in any sport. But the actual assist itself was sick, man. I mean, I don't know. We can talk about the goal. We can talk about the assist.
I mean, literally nothing with this guy surprises me anymore.
No.
He had 30 goal contributions in the regular season, I want to say, somewhere around there.
Something like that, yeah.
I think it was 15 goals or 18. I don't know. I don't want to make it up, but he's actually incredible. And I think we've sort of known this in the past years watching him. This kid's going to be amazing, right? And kind of going into this season, it was he's really good. He should be at this, shortlist for MVP, shortlist for, all these awards. Yeah. And he's living up to it. And I think as much as this really does hurt the Galaxy, it's because of how impactful he's been able to be, of how much he's been able to unlock the rest of this team. And it's just incredible. I don't know if you want to do a Seattle talk before, keeping with this, but
yes.
he's their I don't know, central piece. I don't know.
Exactly. Look, and he is that. And I think we'll keep talking about Puig probably when we preview MLS Cup. But fair point, Jason. We probably should give the Sounders some love. We just did about 5 to 10 minutes on Orlando.
I don't know if we gave him that much time, but
roughly giving it, right? The Seattle Sounders, I think they didn't have Yamar in this game, and that is a big piece, right? He was just named to the MLS Best 11 and everything like that. The Sounders, I think, once again proves that this is a team that is one of the best, one of the most consistent, one of the most talented teams in the league, and they do it all from development to stars to domestic, international, everything in between.
A team that is not afraid of any moment.
They remain, though, a star DP away from being consistent MLS Cup contenders, though. That's the takeaway I got from this game.
Yeah, I think they're like, and I think we texted about this maybe a little bit. They're one piece away from just a little bit more. It doesn't even need to be like it's crazy 30 goals and assists. It just needs more production up front. They need another angle or another kind. They just need more creativity in their attack, because I think it's something that I actually thought they were going to rely on, and they did, and that's their defense, and it really did put up a huge fight in this game. It was really good. It took 86 minutes and a Ricky Puig wonderful assist on one leg, like,
and a rare turnover from the Sounders that they don't normally make those types of mistakes,
Like in this game, it genuinely could have gone either way, but I don't think they create enough chances. And while the Galaxy's defense has been better, the Sounders aren't making you question your back line nearly as much as they probably should be. And I think Jordan Morris, when he's in form, and he has been, it is one of those guys that, he's running at that back line and he's making things happen a lot of the time. But it's sort of pieced together, that attack, and I think it just came up short because you're now out. Every game you play is going to be a tough game, right? In MLS Cup, and to get this far, they should be probably proud of. But I agree. I think a piece that can, and it's easier said than done. Obviously, most MLS teams don't have that, but they're set up to just have someone slot into there and be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, look, bro, like, defensively, Jackson Reagan's going to be around a while. You like to think Nuhu's going to be around a while. He stepped in, and him and Gabriel Peck battled down their wing, and it was a hell of a performance. They obviously took a photo after and traded jerseys, and you could tell like the amount of energy going back and forth between those two. I think Alex Roldan, yes, he's not the most elite defender, but I think he's a damn good, one of the best right backs in the league. And Obed Vargas has developed into a strong central midfielder. Roldan next to him and everything like that, right? Like, this team defensively is just so sound, so set, and
so
you sounder, right? You can get away with developing that, and I think maybe not spending as much money on all of that. The issue is that the Sounders don't really spend a bunch of money, and their big splash signing was Pedro de la Vega, who was coming over with an injury history, and we saw that unfold this year. He was supposed to be the DP difference maker, right? Now,
but could he still be?
Like, he could, yeah.
And I think a lot of the times, I think just sports culture in general is like it be impactful. I mean, right away, but
for sure.
It does take, and I think I've mentioned it a lot, it does take an adjustment period, and it does take different times for different players. Like, there's a chance he has a fully healthy next season that is 20 plus goals and assists. I don't know. I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, no, I agree that it is. I just don't think I saw the resemblance. I don't know. Whatever. I don't think I saw.
You didn't see enough to make you confident you can reach that point.
Yes,
yeah. And I think I agree. But he was also, like you're saying, in and out kind of all year.
But we see it with some of the best talents. Tyler Adams is the best D mid for the U.S. and arguably globally, right? But he's injury prone and he doesn't stay on the field, and that hurts his value. That hurts his production. That hurts his potential chances of playing at the best clubs in the world because he can't stay on the field for Bournemouth. It's just the reality that I think the Sounders are going to have to face of now. Rusnak, potential free agent. You got to figure that out. Jordan Morris, is he your 9? Do you push him back out on the wing? Do you get a DP 9? Is Pedro de la Vega, is he going to be a consistent DP? You hope, and yes, he can be, and that's totally fair, Jason. I agree to your point. But the Sounders, I just think they need a 20-goal scorer. Yes, whether that's coming off the wing, whether that's Jordan Morris going back out on the wing and pushing for a DP9. I think they need a dude who is going to be Raul Ruidiaz.
Yeah, I was going to say, when they were at their best, they had Raul Ruidiaz, who had the most incredible, goal records in playoffs. Right, his goals a game were crazy. So
They need to find their next one.
Spot. Like, to me, we both picked them. I looked back just now. We both picked them to finish first in the West at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And I personally, unless something crazy happens, don't see them like dropping that far going into next season. I don't know if I'll have them first, but a lot can happen between then. I'm getting ahead of myself. But my point is, like, this team is in a really good spot. And if they can just find some gems or spend on a player who's going to come in and be super impactful, then this is MLS. This is an MLS Cup contender, right? With a small tweak.
Contender. I'm not going down that rabbit hole, Jason. You could just say one word and it throws me off.
They're contenders.
They are at the top, contenders for top of the Western Conference, is what I will say.
I think their defense alone puts them
at the top of the Western Conference.
So if you're going to be at the top of the Western Conference, all right. We're not going to do it. We're not going to.
I don't think I will leave it at this. I don't think the Sounders are true contenders for a trophy until they get another DP attacker to go along.
Well, yeah.
Once they do,
assuming they get a consistent production in any way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they need.
All right, Jason. This Saturday, free on Apple TV, Fox Deportes, 4 p.m. Eastern. You have the LA Galaxy hosting the New York Red Bulls for MLS Cup. It is a battle of two of the OG clubs in this league at Dignity Health Sports Park. It has been something that the LA Galaxy obviously hold the record for most MLS Cups in Major League Soccer history. The Red Bulls, being one of those OG clubs, never have done it before. They did make MLS Cup back in 2008. So it's been a while since this organization, this club, has been on this stage for this fan base and everything like that.
Both of them,
yes, it's been a long time for the Galaxy as well, but obviously more recent history.
Well, don't they have the most ever?
Yes, they have 5, right? That race to Ace, everything like that. The Galaxy and the Red Bulls both have been playing some fantastic soccer to get here. For the Galaxy,
that's how they got here. They had to be playing
crazy. Well. It's crazy, right? The Galaxy beating Colorado twice, beating Minnesota, taking down Seattle. Now here hosting MLS Cup as the number 2 seed. The Red Bulls taking down the giants of the Columbus Crew. Then going to New York City. Well, yeah, right. Going to whatever, same state for the most part. A state away. I can say going to an hour and a half drive away to a baseball stadium to take down New York City FC, and then
they actually were there for the circus.
Yeah, the circus in town, right? And then obviously taking down Orlando City in the Eastern Conference Finals. We have seen a clash of two different styles. I think it has been all-out offense of the LA Galaxy. I think it has been some fantastic defense of the New York Red Bulls. And you can even argue both teams, I think, are showing little flashes of the spark of the other side, right? I think the Galaxy.
Well, I almost wanted to interject and just say, are we like? Is it the Red Bull style that's forcing them into these crazy defensive games, or is
I think so.
100%. It's a bit of both. I think they do play a more defensive style, but I don't know if they want their goalie stopping 19 shots over 4.
I like how I'm just trying to set the table here, Jason, and you're just like, no, hold up.
You know what? I'm just hold the phone here. The Galaxy's actually been a decent defense.
Yes, no, that's fair. That's fair. Okay. I think first and foremost, it's probably fair to talk about the hosts, right? The Galaxy, they've been the team that were, for most of 2024, on top of the Western Conference, obviously on decision day, falling to the number 2 seed, but they've been the better team over the course of the entire season. They are the team hosting. They are the team going for their 6th MLS Cup in league history. This is a team without their star, without their 28 goal contributor, Jason. You asked before, 28 goal contribution.
I was close, though.
From Ricky Pooch. But this is a team that still has the likes of Dejan Joveljic, Gabriel Peck, Joseph Painsil. Oh, yeah, and a dude who was just playing in the Champions League final a few months ago in Marco Reus. This is a team that has Greg Vanney, one of the most experienced managers in MLS history, and a dude who's been here, done that before. What's your take right now on the state of the LA Galaxy? And this can be Poosh, this can be without Poosh, however you want to take this, Jason, heading into MLS Cup 2024.
I think it kind of goes without saying, like the Poosh injury really does hurt this team. I think everything they like to do kind of goes through him. He's the creator. He's the main cog in that midfield that's pushing everyone, that's creating space and taking space and forcing the defenders to crash in on him, opening up for others. He really is like such a massive player for them. But at the same time, like, I think they have 3, maybe 4 20 goal and assist players this season. If you take Puig out, I think they have at least 2, right, with Peck and Joveljic.
I'm pulling it up right now for you.
Peck was 30 goal contributions.
Yeah,
these guys are
and
good.
Painsel's 20 as well.
Okay, yeah. So there's 3 20 goal and assist players outside of Ricky Puig, which I think is it shouldn't be seen as like a negative on Puig, because he is creating these opportunities for a lot of these guys to go and then have that space. But I think it also says something about this Galaxy. It says something about that front 3 that they have, that I'm pretty confident. I don't know who. It might be Marco Reus, right? That probably starts in that spot, who, like you said, was playing Champions League final, in 2024, right? That was this year.
Yeah, it was against Madrid earlier this year.
Yeah. Like, that's not the worst case scenario here for a team that has so much production. And I think it's that front 3 with Paintsel, Joveljic, and Peck that is just so difficult to stop. And I think when you look at their stats, when you realize that, like, Gabriel Peck had 14 assists going into the playoffs, like, it's not like these guys can't create as well. It's not like all 3 of these guys can't score. I mean, I think it was Paintsel who just demolished Minnesota. I guess it was all of them, but but like, if you think of that Minnesota game, that's a one-off, one and done kind of game, and they just destroyed them. And that's a Minnesota team with not a horrible defense. I mean, it's not amazing. It's not.
No, it's a good back line.
It's roughly on the same par goals against wise as the Red Bulls. So I think it's interesting. I think with Puig, it's obviously a much better team, but it can't be looked over that their front 3 still has an insane track record and an insane amount of goals and assists. And if it was just all goals, I would maybe have a little bit more pause. Like, if Puig had like 30 assists, but it's not. It's these guys playing off of each other as well. And I think the impact of Puig will be felt, or the lack of impact, I guess, will be felt. And it will be tougher, but this isn't a team that's going to be afraid. They're not going to be afraid at the moment. They've been incredible at home all year. I think they've lost 1 game at home this entire season. I want to say that was maybe no, never mind. Yeah. So they also are coming off playing arguably the best defense in the entire league.
Yeah.
I just rambled. You go.
No, I was letting you cook, because you're not saying anything that I disagree with, right?
Yeah.
The attacking front 3 for this team is elite. It's the best in Major League Soccer. And for the Red Bulls, this is not a New York City attack. This is not a Orlando City attack. The LA Galaxy's attack is different, and these guys are different. Yes, the Puig injury hurts, because that's 18 assists that are missing from this team, or something like that. 15 assists or something like that. That's going to be missing.
14 or 15 goals.
And those assists obviously have, set up the likes of Joveljic, Puig, Peck. We saw it last game against Seattle that it took a Ricky Puig killer ball to set up Joveljic for that.
I also think just quickly, like, if MLS did like the hockey assist, how in hockey, like the guy who passes to the guy who pass.
Yes.
Puig probably has like a million, right? like there's probably a lot of times where he sets up the assist.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. And I know MLS has they've gotten a little bit more strict with their secondary assists and stuff, so it's not like it's as flexible as the NHL hockey assist, but still, yes. The reason why I'm not okay with Push being out, it sucks, and I wish he was being able to star in this moment and this final for him. But Marco Reus, even though, yes, I think there's some reports out there that he has a little bit of a knock himself from the Western Conference final. It seems to me, from everything I'm reading and hearing, that he will be able to play in this game. Marco Reus partnering next to Marky Delgado with Edwin Cerrillo behind them is not a bad backup to it. Marco Reus had 4 goal contributions in 4 starts this season. He was only able to play 6 games, and he was able to make almost an instant impact for this LA Galaxy side. It's different than Push. It's not going to be the same, Ricky just kind of walking around and hitting dimes all across the field. But having a guy who's played as many games as he has for Borussia Dortmund, Champions League finals, Champions League games, playing against some of the best teams in the world, I'll take that as the dude who's going to be my replacement for the absolute best player in these MLS Cup playoffs and potentially best player in the league outside of Lionel Messi. Marky Delgado is a dude who has been around the block, has won an MLS Cup with Greg Vanney. He knows what to do, and I think he is arguably one of the best 8s in the league. And I think even outside of the attack that speaks for itself, I think looking at what that midfield is potentially going to look like, and I'm sure Diego Fagundez is going to get his run as, one of the 8s. If I don't expect Royce to play a full 90, so I would expect Fagundez to get subbed in at some point, or even start. Who knows what Vanney wants to do. He's been a guy who's been around the MLS block as well. So I am not concerned about, I think, the level of talent that is stepping in for Ricky Push. I'm concerned about the heater that Push has been on and the productivity of Push. That's going to hurt the LA Galaxy because everything else has been on fire. The rest of the attack, the back line has been fantastic. To me, it's just does the missing piece of Push, does that kind of hurt the confidence of everyone else around the team? Because this team is designed to play through Ricky Push. Or
do they play for Ricky Push?
Fair. I like the emotional side of it. I like it.
I think that this guy playing for 30 minutes, getting the game-winning assist in a must-win game versus one of the best defenses in the league, I'm ready to run through a brick wall for him, and I don't even like the Galaxy, right? That's crazy. This guy put it all on the line for his teammates. Yeah. You know what? And I think it's their turn to put it on the line for him. And as much as, like you said, I would love to see him in this game. He deserves to be in this game. He has done so much to deserve, as much praise as we can heap on him. But they're going to have to do it without him. They're going to have to do it without him here.
And I think a big part of that, look, we've talked midfield, we've talked the attack, we've highlighted the defense, but I think I want to dive specifically a little bit more on the defense, right? Carlos Garces next to Maya Yoshida has been such a fun center back pairing for a young South American center back going up against a seasoned guy who's played in the Bundesliga, Serie A, Premier League, right? He's closing in on 40, Maya Yoshida is in fantastic shape for his age, but you have the old grizzled veteran next to the young, startup that really kind of came out of nowhere this summer as a signing. You have Mickey Amane, who's been there. John Nelson has stepped up as an unbelievable left back underneath Greg Vanney. This seems fun. The back line is just fun too. And I didn't think I'd be saying that about the Galaxy back line in December, but here we are.
I mean, I've probably criticized the Galaxy back line more than most.
We all have, and it's been fair.
Or doubted. I don't know about criticizing more than doubting. I feel like I've doubted them for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it was really ever fair. If you look at it, it's not as bad as the worst,
Sure. It's not as bad as the absolute garbage.
That makes it sound. I feel like they're hitting their confidence. it took them a while to get here. I'm struggling to say what I'm trying to say, but it took them a while to get to this point where you can kind of be like, this team's operating confidently at the back, where they actually are communicating. They know where each other are. They've had the time and the experience together to know what they're doing. It's not the number one thing I would talk about when I talk about this team. And I think obviously we're talking about it third for a reason. But yeah, I mean, I think it's much better than my doubts have probably shown.
No, I think it's fair to have criticized them in 2024, but I don't think it's fair to continue that narrative at this point, right?
Yeah,
five goals allowed in their last
you know five. What? Well said. Yeah, let's just move.
Sure, leave it at that. The only thing that I want to say, does John McCarthy potentially become the first player to win an MLS Cup with LAFC and the LA Galaxy? Well, yeah, because LA Galaxy haven't won in a while. That was my dumb own question. But that's still fun.
I was trying to look at their roster, has anyone?
You're like, who else? I'm just saying that's a fun storyline.
Is this a trick question?
John McCarthy could become the goalkeeper of LA. Just a fun little storyline.
Yeah, no bar will charge for drinks for me.
No, John McCarthy can walk wherever he wants to walk. Okay, cool. Let's go to the other side. New York Red Bulls, led by Sandro Schwartz, who becomes one of the few, I think less than 10. I want to say it's 6, 7, or 8 managers have made it to an MLS Cup in their first season as manager. Schwartz has these guys playing inspired, motivated. Maybe not the most fun soccer for Carlos Cornell, but this team is getting results at the end of the day, and guys are stepping up for each other. Emil Forsberg is an absolute leader on and off the field, right? No one fucking believed in us, and they were wrong, and whatever he said, and here they are. The Red Bulls are trying to create history and be one of the youngest teams ever to win an MLS Cup, lower seeds to win an MLS Cup, whatever you want to say there. Jason, I'm going to start off again the same way. What's your status? What's your thoughts around the New York Red Bulls heading into MLS Cup this Saturday?
Defend. I will say this. I was actually interested, surprised. Emil Forsberg, with the impact that he's had, I think only has 2 goals and an assist in these playoffs. I mean, I know they haven't scored a ton, right? They've kind of eked out some of these wins, maybe on the opposite side of the expected goals here. But that's kind of what this team is set up to do, and I think that's the story around this team, right? I don't expect them to win the shots battle. I don't expect them to win the probably expected goals battle in this game. That doesn't mean it's necessarily not going to go their way, right? I think we've seen it go their way consistently with that happening, right? They've played the better team in every single matchup so far, right? Columbus was the better team. I don't think a Red Bull fan will get mad at me for saying that.
No.
Maybe you could question it with some of the other opponents. I won't put you in that spot, but
no, that's fair. I think Columbus and Orlando, there was no question that those 2 teams were the better teams. New York City, there's a question. That's all I'll say.
Okay, well, yeah, and I don't know if it's that important anyways. My point is, this team is sort of I don't really want to call them a worse version of Seattle, but in some ways they are in defense, and maybe they're a little bit better in attack. I think, or maybe a lot better in attack. I don't know. I think that Emil Forsberg has, in what Sandro Schwartz and what we've been talking about this whole time, has been able to do is pretty incredible. I think where they've gotten this team, Lewis Morgan is producing at a high level and has been all season. Dante Vanzeir, I think I have a opinion of him in my head based on his past that I can't really get over too much.
But on the field, he's been.
You can't argue with the fact that he's been producing.
Yes.
Emil Forsberg, despite having kind of, I don't know if I would say up and down season, because most of the downs were because of injury.
He hasn't had a season for the most part.
What season, right? His season started in the playoffs, and he's showing that his impact is really important. So I do think this is a stronger team. I like their setup, their formation. I think John Tolkien, when he moves up the field, is
unbelievable.
It's a threat, man. It's a legitimate threat when he moves up the field. So overall, like, I do think this team is strong. I think they're going to have to rely on more kind of Cornell saves, though. Like, they're not going to stop the Galaxy from shooting.
I think that's fair, and I think I'm trying not to start off negative about the LA Galaxy. So that's where the Red Bulls that's where my pause comes in. Emil Forsberg.
Hey, I said to keep the praise on them. They deserve to be here. Okay, they earned it.
100%. They do 100%. I said it last week to you, and we agreed that Ricky Push was the biggest star left in these MLS Cup playoffs, and right behind him was Emil Forsberg. Unfortunately, Push is out. Emil Forsberg is now the biggest star, I think, in these MLS Cup playoffs.
But is he the best player?
I think so, yes.
Based on what Gabriel Peck has showed you?
I'm still going to go Forsberg in a one-game scenario, yes.
I think Forsberg is in a better position to impact.
100%, and Peck would be third if I'm gonna actually make a ranking here. But
I mean, also if you're gonna make
no, you're good.
If you're gonna make a ranking, it's probably like you could put Emil Forsberg there, but then what? When how far do we got to count till we
Peck,
get another?
Payne Still are probably 3 and 4, so you know that and Jovic is probably 5.
Okay, so we're at I don't know, Marco Royce.
Yeah, sure. But look, Forsberg, when he plays for the Red Bulls, I think gains so much attention and draws so much energy and space, and that's going to be something that Edwin Cerrillo and Marky Delgado are going to have to deal with, right? But in taking away a Cerrillo or a Delgado just opens up so much more space for Cameron Harper, for John Tolkien to get up the field, for Lewis Morgan and Dante Van Zier to be threats getting behind a Galaxy back line that, yes, has been good as of late, but we've seen mistakes come from, and they will still give up the occasional mistake here and there, even in this recent run.
I mean, the Galaxy are going to have a lot of pressure on Yamane and Nelson.
100%. And they want Yamane and Nelson to get up the field too, which is going to open up some space in behind. Yeah. So there is a chance here that if the Red Bulls can win some second balls, can apply some pressure, that the Red Bull style, even though it's not the most fun, will win them this game. And I think a lot of that is because of the attention that Emil Forsberg garners in the middle of the field. Could also come down to Forsberg hits an absolute fucking beauty of a banger. And, you know, he hits one from outside the box, and he's the star that you know, the Red Bulls were promised heading into the season, and that wins them the game. There's obviously the I think, defensive work rate that, you know, you look at a Tolkien and a Harper are also going to have to kind of accommodate for with the attack of the Galaxy. But this is where I think the Red Bull pressure and winning second balls is going to be key. If they do that and they keep the pressure on the Galaxy and they don't allow the Galaxy-wide players, I think, to do their thing and run at them, I think the Red Bulls could have a very nice Saturday. But that is also saying a lot against some of the best attackers in the league. The Red Bulls completely deserve this. Dylan Nialis, Sean Nialis, Long Island guys, love them. They have been some of the best center backs in the recent stretch. Daniel Edelman has been a stud D mid. Felipe Carballo was out injured last game. We'll see if he plays, even starts, whatever, in this MLS Cup. But Peter Stroud was a pretty nice central midfielder next to him. So there is question marks on the Red Bull side of things too. You know, Carballo is a big difference maker. He has scored 2 big goals in these MLS Cup playoffs. So, you know, I think just as much as we're talking injury concerns with Push on the Galaxy, I think Carballo could be a similar level injury concern. Maybe not as big of a star, but similar level of, you know,
maybe not.
But obviously not. But like Carballo, again, he scored 2 of the goals for the Red Bulls in these playoffs where they're not scoring many. So that is a concern for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, what is it? It's Tolkien versus Peck a little bit here.
Yeah.
Like, same side of the field. When Tolkien goes up, does that mean Gabriel Peck has free range? Because if he does, this is going to be a long Saturday.
And I will say, I think the thing that maybe neutralized Peck a little bit in the Western Conference Final was the amount of Nuhu just matching him defensively, not really getting up as much and kind of just playing body to body.
Yeah,
Obviously,
Nuhu comparison to Tolkien is not a long one.
Exactly. I think
I don't know.
Nuhu likes to piss the opposing attacker off. John Tolkien, I think, might like to do that more than any other
Yeah, I was
fullback
going to say, he for sure
Major
likes
League
to do
Soccer.
that.
But I think Tolkien's asked to do more offensively than what Nuhu is. And in this system, Tolkien's asked to do a lot offensively. So if you're going to, like you said, it's a good point, Jason. If you want Tolkien up the field, Gabriel Peck with, a nice little pass over the top, if Tolkien's caught a little bit too up, unless Tolkien's, getting a card and fouling Peck, that could be a problem for the Galaxy.
Even if he is getting a card, you get a yellow card, you got to play a little safer against someone who wants to run at you all game.
And sure, do you keep Tolkien back then? But then you lose the offensive threat on one side completely. So there's a lot to it. I think that what we've seen adaptability-wise from Shores and the Red Bulls, they will adapt and they will figure out the best possible way to try to neutralize as many of these pieces as they can. But I don't expect to see the same defensive output from the Red Bulls as we've seen these MLS Cup playoffs.
You said, I think, for the Seattle game, something like you don't what did you say? It was kind of like the defense is going to be there, right, for Seattle.
Yeah.
But can they score more than 2 goals or something?
Yeah, and they didn't.
Can we see that? Is there similarities to this game? Like, I'm struggling because I feel like the Red Bulls, like I personally had more faith in Seattle beating LA than the Red Bulls.
I agree with that. I think
I'm struggling because it's sort of like a similar, it's not perfect. And I think, like you're saying, the Rebels are a little bit more I don't know if amenable is the right word, but like adaptable. Like they're better at kind of switching it up based on what's necessary. But I do feel like it's not that far of a stretch to be like, this is an attack that kind of relies on some wonder goals at times. And then it's also a defense that is very strong, but can they stop, another in onslaught?
I will respond to that with this. I'm picking the LA Galaxy to win MLS Cup. And I'm picking it because, yes, the Red Bulls play a physical style, play a style that likes to lull opposing attacks a little bit, and I think try to be more defensive when possible. I think, though, the amount of opportunities that the Red Bulls have given every single opponent so far in these MLS Cup playoffs concerns me still to a point where the Sounders weren't doing that and the Galaxy still figured out a way to get a goal across the board. The Galaxy without Puig will still figure out a way how to get a goal, 2 goals, potentially even 3 goals across the board in this game. And I don't know if the Red Bulls have enough to score more than 2. I think they can score 1. I think you can see a Forsberg inspired goal, whether it's him drawing defenders away or him doing something himself. I think Forsberg will impact enough to get a goal in this game. But I don't think there's enough past that where the Galaxy won't eventually break down this Red Bulls back line, this Red Bull system a little bit and put 2+ on this team at home. I'm going Galaxy.
I am as well. I think I also think, like, we didn't even mention it, but Greg Vanney having won an MLS Cup, I think matters. I think it's something that's like in addition to this team that was built in is clearly just well-rounded, incredible. I think having that experience of he knows what to expect. I'm assuming that was played in Toronto when he won it. I can't remember. But that Toronto team was really good. So
I mean,
it might have been in
before.
Yeah, I don't know where it was, but it might have been in, what was it, versus Seattle a couple of those?
I'll look it up while you talk.
But I think I'm also picking the Galaxy, so we are gonna be we're either gonna be happy over here or sad, I guess. I don't know if there's much more for me to actually add completely because I feel like I've said, the attack to me is too talented. And I'm a little concerned again with Harper and Tolkien pushing forward, what that leaves behind them. And I think that if they're running up and down, they're well conditioned, but this could be the conditioning of their lives here, because they're going to have to be tracking back like an insane amount. And if there's a turnover in the midfield, like let's say the Rebels have the ball and there's a turnover and the Galaxy are able to move fast, it's going to be fast. And if they're not in position to track back, the Galaxy will punish you. And I think the New York City game versus the Rebels kind of stands out because New York City had like near 20 shots or something crazy. Like,
yeah, they finish any of them. Just please.
I mean, it's not a lack of chances that are stopping other teams here. It's a lack of finishing. And this is a Galaxy team where I think we're seeing some of the strongest finishing across the front three than we've seen in years.
I agree. Outside of everything that I think you and I just said, which is completely valid, there is a talent discrepancy between these two teams, and I'm sorry.
Well, it goes back to okay. If Emil Forsberg is your one, where's the next Red Bull player falling in? Is it Carlos Coronel? Is it? Lewis
it's probably Morgan? Tolkien. It's probably Tolkien. Maybe Sean Nialis. Yeah. I don't know. It's tough, but
you're probably in that 4-5 range at best.
I'm not putting Tolkien or Nialis or Coronel ahead of Peck, Push, Joveljic, Marco Royce,
Paintsil, maybe.
Paintsil, yeah, like Paintsil.
It gets tough, man. It gets tough when you really start to think about it.
I agree. I agree. Well, ultimately, what I know is that MLS Cup is going to be a lot of fun this Saturday, Jason.
Did you see if Vanny coached at home?
So he did coach at home in the 2017 final that Toronto did win. He did also coach at home during the 2016 final that they lost in PKs. So there's also that. Okay. And he lost the 2019 final on the road.
Yeah. Well, I knew they went to 3 straight.
Well, yeah. No, there was the Atlanta-Portland MLS Cup final that everyone...
Whatever, man.
Come on, stop it. No, joking. But, yes, look, this is going to be a fun game. I think the only reason why I'm keeping it so close in my head is because there is no Ricky Push. If there was Ricky Push, I think the Galaxy win this easily, and I'm not trying to convince myself otherwise. But that is whatever this entire season, every episode, every minute, every blog, every post on social media has built up for is this Saturday. Jason, is there anything that you want to say to the listeners, to the viewers of this before we go and let you guys enjoy the biggest game of the MLS season?
Honestly, just enjoy it. I mean, I figure most of the people listening are not a fan of either of the two teams. And then if you are a fan of one of the two teams, also enjoy.
Good luck. Yeah.
Figure yourself, you are the lucky ones, okay? I would die to be in your position. You know what? If the Fire lost MLS Cup, I guess this doesn't matter. Whatever. It's good for you guys.
This is for you, Galaxy and Red Bull fans. Enjoy the day. I remember in 2021 anxiously walking around my apartment all day with, just waiting for MLS Cup to come around, and obviously resulted in celebration for me. But one of these two teams, one of these two coasts will be celebrating MLS Cup 2024. Thank you guys for an entire fun season as well of enjoying, watching, listening to this podcast. And we will talk with you guys next week about the champions of the league and the implications of everything around that. Obviously, also probably some more off-season news. So thank you guys. Enjoy MLS Cup, and we'll see you guys next week.